Story 1. Just a long process of being troubled. I want to stay with you. We should break up. We should stay together. We should see other people. It was on and off for years. A difficult time in my life. Story 2. Ghosting, or should it be called zombie ing? He ghosted me, returned after a month, was forgiven, and taken back in, then ghosted again. Story 3. My boyfriend was supposed to pick me up on New Year's Eve to go to a party. We lived just over an hour from each other. He called me to say he was on his way, so I got dressed and waited. He never showed up. I kept calling him, but he never answered. Eventually, hours later, a girl answered and asked me who I was. I said, "It's Josh's girlfriend. Who are you?" I heard her say to Josh in the background, "It's her." And he responded, "Just hang up on her." I was humiliated. I had to call my friend to tell her I couldn't make it to the party. I was living with my sister and her husband at the time, and they had invited me to a party with them, but I declined because I had plans. I felt too embarrassed to call them. I felt like such a loser taking off my makeup and party clothes and having a shower. I put on my pajamas and cried myself to sleep. It's been about 20 years, so I can't remember when the guy eventually called me, but it was days later. He came up with the excuse that his car broke down and his phone died. He denied that another girl answered his phone and that he told her to hang up. Story 4. The most recent experience made me reconsider my beliefs about soulmates and the idea of the one. Over the course of a week, everything fell apart. The most hurtful thing she said was, "Go focus on your life. I'm not a part of it." The coldness I felt was painful and hard to believe this was the same person. It has been a little over a month, so the feelings are still fresh, and I experience moments of anger. However, I don't hate her and I can't stay angry. I'm just trying to work on myself and hope that one day she will reconsider. Story 5. 10 years of marriage. He was truly a father to my 2 kids. There were no marital issues as far as I knew. One day, he came home from a haircut and told me he was moving out. That was the last time I ever saw him. He did not say anything to either of the kids, who are in their late teens. He just packed some things and left. We handled the divorce mostly via email. I still have no idea why. Story 6. She went to Italy to visit her family, then texted me that she had gotten back with her ex. I never heard from her again. Story 7. Talking to her friend and having her share the news even though she is right there at the lunch table. Story 8. My ex moved away because she got a new job along with other reasons, and she tells me she met a guy. She spent a lot of time with him and seemed to stop caring about me. I was also looking for a job during this time and became increasingly depressed from all the rejections. Meanwhile, she was just having fun and misleading me. She kept me in the dark about many things. When I asked if she could just keep me updated about what she was doing, including sleeping at another man's house, she called me controlling. She ultimately decided to break up with me after planning a FaceTime call. I knew it was coming. Now she is married to that guy, and they have a family together. Story 9. I was dating a coworker, and she had been busy and distant in the week or two leading up to the annual company function. She invited me to sit with her and her friends for dinner, but we were surrounded by people, so I couldn't really get any answers about what was going on. After the presentation and once the dance floor and bar opened up, she left me behind, 2 steps ahead the whole night. At the end of the evening, when the last of us were just hanging around, she sat next to an older man from corporate and held hands with him. This was the same person who had threatened to fire me a couple of weeks earlier without explaining why, only mentioning something vague about not cooperating. Story 10. My friend's parents were away on holiday for a week, so a group of us crashed at his place. On the first night, we all went out, and a few of us ended up back at his house, including my girlfriend, some of her friends, and my best friend. We continued drinking and listening to music until dawn. Most had gone home, and I assumed my girlfriend had left with her friends. Eventually, I went to bed to find my best friend and my girlfriend sitting on the bed together. I was pleasantly surprised that she was still there and happy to see her getting along with my friend. I was too tired and drunk to put 2 and 2 together. She made excuses to leave and promptly went home while I went to bed. The next afternoon, A group of us was just relaxing, drinking and listening to music again when there was a knock on the door. My other friend's girlfriend answered and said, "Nosedive, it's your girlfriend. She wants to talk to you." It was strange. Why didn't she come in? But I went to the door, and she looked sheepish. We sat on the garden wall and had the talk where she broke up with me. "It's not you, it's me," and so on. Sucks, but there are no hard feelings, and I accepted her decision. She then asked, "Is my best friend still here?" I replied, "Yeah, of course, we're staying here all week." She asked, "Can I speak to him?" I said, "Sure," thinking she would ask him to keep an eye on me or something. But she straight up kissed him, and off they went hand in hand. Story 11. Slowly and passively, I am dealing with the decline of a family member dying of cancer. Ghosting feels better than receiving a just let go message. Story 12. I remember my mother calling me to tell me that my brother had passed away. Felt like my feet couldn't carry me, and I cried uncontrollably. At that moment, I thought I couldn't cry anymore, but I did, and I haven't since. It was later discovered that the cause of death was excessive drug abuse, and his body could no longer handle it. Story 13. I was removed for seeking outside help for my postnatal depression. He brought in his obvious side partner on the same day. She had 7 different diagnosed personalities. Story 14. Not the worst way I was broken up, but I will share the worst way I broke up with someone. I wrote him a letter expressing my feelings and explaining how I thought we would be better off as friends. I gave it a goodbye kiss on the cover, and because I felt guilty and didn't want him to be too sad, I also gave him chocolate. I was a teenage girl and didn't know how to break up properly. Now as an adult, I understand that I basically gave him what looked like a love letter filled with affection and chocolate. He smiled brightly when I gave it to him and hugged me tightly, only to later open it and see this was my way of saying goodbye. By trying to make it less painful, I probably made it much worse for him. Story 15. On January 5th, she hung up the call while we were sleeping and texted me, saying that she needs to be alone and that she sees us getting back together in the near future. A week later, I found out she is dating the guy I have truly despised for months. She got with him immediately after breaking up with me, literally seconds later. Everything she said was a lie, including our entire relationship. I don't understand why I miss her and still love her. Story 16. I discovered he was cheating through Facebook Messenger. He called the police on me for breaking into his office and then reported me to the main office for the same accusation. They removed me from the lease and evicted me as a dangerous resident. Since we were a same-sex couple in Texas, we were always just roommates. Story 17. Here's a story I've shared before. At the end of September 2021, I was awakened by my wife telling me that I was going to be late taking our 5-year-old to school. She had forgotten that Wednesdays are late start days, and I got the little one to school on time. Upon returning home, my wife was still upset. She had a bad attitude and was clearly emotional about something. My first comment to her was not perfect, and it resulted in her having a temper tantrum just inside the sliding glass door. She began to scream loudly and even opened the door a few inches so that the entire neighborhood could hear her. About a week before, she had come home from work in a horrible mood. It became apparent that she had not eaten or taken her medication that day. I resolved to get her something to eat, but the drive was so difficult that I ended up getting out of the car on the highway just to get away from her. A state officer picked me up to give me a ride, and when he dropped me off, he wanted to make sure everyone was safe, so he asked my wife what happened. She said, "He hasn't eaten or taken his medication today." She later told me she said it because she was worried I was trying to build a bad parent case against her, which left me bewildered as I had never even considered divorce. Back to the story. Due to remembering how she had lied to the officer, I wanted to record her temper tantrum. She really hammed it up, and I even said during the video, "Is she trying to get the neighbors to call the police or something?" Eventually, the screaming stopped, and she came out on the porch, then grabbed my phone and deleted the video while running down the driveway. I was frustrated, irritated, and childish, so my response was to find her phone. I never cared to go through her phone or what she had on it. I didn't even want to delete any videos, but I wanted her to think I did. After a minute or so, she realized I had her phone, and that was when things got serious. She began screaming at me, pulling on my clothes, grabbing my arms, and ripping at my clothing. She went into full panic mode, and I tried to get away from her. Nearby was my work truck. I climbed into the driver's seat and tried unsuccessfully to close the door behind me. Now she was trying to climb over me as I sat in the driver's seat. Eventually, I put my arm on the steering wheel to push her out, and then I climbed all the way out as she groped and tried climbing on my back. Knowing the only way to get her off my body was to shrug her to the ground, I moved from the pavement to a grassy area where I managed to get her off me. At that point, she ran down the driveway screaming, "I'm going to get help." About 15 minutes later, 3 deputies arrived, and I was arrested for abuse. She told them that I had slammed her head into the steering wheel when she had climbed into the front of the car over me, and that I had violently beaten her to the ground when I shook her off my back. I foolishly didn't want to say anything against my wife. I didn't tell them about what she had said. I barely acknowledged that she was the one coming at me, and I didn't even tell the officers that I had much of the event recorded to prove I was not beating her. I figured this was just something that we could resolve when I got home the next day, and that we could work on together. Upon arriving at the jail, I tested positive for COVID-19. Except for a cruel display of toxic masculinity by one of the guards, I spent much of the next 22 hours in an isolation cell. Eventually, I saw the judge, and I was ready to go home and figure things out with my wife. Except that's when I learned there was a no-contact order, and I was not allowed to return home until after the trial, which was 6 weeks away. This meant I would miss things like Halloween and our anniversary. I was devastated. I was fortunate to be offered accommodation during my 10 days of COVID-19 isolation, thanks to my brothers. But at the same time, I had just lost my family and was in total isolation. Many days were spent with an overwhelming sadness, and I had to experience it alone. After about 3 weeks, I was still a mess. I had made some dramatic posts about my sadness. Over 100 friends reached out personally, and their support meant a lot to me, especially from soldiers I had been in the army with and hadn't seen in 15 years. Then she told me that she wanted a divorce. There's more to the story, obviously. Life goes on, but that was my worst breakup. Story 18. He vanished. I found him. Then I discovered his wife, girlfriend, and 2 sons, all within a few months. After that, I disappeared. Story 19. I was in the military. I came home from survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training, and she told me that we were done and I needed to move out of our apartment by the end of the weekend. Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training is where they starve you, deprive you of sleep, and psychologically challenge you for days, simulating the experience of being a prisoner of war. One last kick in the pants to finish me off. Story 20. I technically wasn't broken up with, but it was one of those cases where my ex became progressively crueler to me while claiming to be dealing with depression and excessive stress. I was painted as someone who left him at his lowest instead of supporting him when I finally got fed up after finding him a therapist and doing everything I could to help him get better. The next week, his brother posted a picture of a family vacation featuring my ex and his new girlfriend. He started a new relationship while still with me and then tried to make me look like the person who left him. Story 21. We were supposed to go to prom together. He stopped talking to me a few days before and never showed up to take me. I sat home by myself. Story 22. I was in 5th grade and went to a pool party. My girlfriend wouldn't come talk to me. Later that night, everyone kept telling me that my girlfriend was making out with another guy. Story 23. I was ghosted after being together for 2 years and engaged. He told me he loved me one night, just like any other, and I never heard from him again. Story 24. A long time ago, when I was young, my girlfriend broke up with me through AOL Instant Messenger. It hurt that she wouldn't do it in person or on the phone. Then I found out she had her friend do it on her account. She couldn't even type words to me. Story 25. The most memorable breakup was with a theater girl I had a brief romance with. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, and when I did, she wanted to end things. What made it memorable was that I didn't know we were dating. Apparently, there's a rule that once you go out on 3 dates, you are automatically in a relationship. Story 26. They prioritized their mental health by sending a no-reply breakup message after taking advantage of me, my finances, and my apartment. I believe the mental health excuse was used weakly to justify a lack of courtesy. Story 27. My ex-wife said, "Oh, by the way, I won't be home for New Year's Eve. I'd prefer to spend it with my new boyfriend." I responded, "Oh, okay. That means I can mail the letter now." She asked, "What letter?" I replied, "The one canceling the rental of our flat, because I'm moving to Switzerland." That was early December 2001. We were divorced in March 2002. Story 28. He took me to what I thought was a romantic dinner and then to a concert I had been eager to see. I remember I couldn't wipe the smile off my face that whole night because I thought, finally, he's making an effort. But later that night, after dropping me off at our house, he broke up with me. Story 29. When I was in junior high, a girl I had a crush on through 8th grade decided she liked me back. We dated over the summer. On the first day of 9th grade, I found out we didn't have any classes together. She saw me during the passing period and said we needed to break up because of that. I laugh about it now, but I felt pretty numb walking to my next class. She turned around and had a new boyfriend literally the next day. Story 30. I am 8 weeks pregnant with an abortion scheduled. My boyfriend at the time was being distant. Then he came over and broke up with me for his ex-girlfriend. Story 31. Technically, I broke up with her, but I knew it was over when we took a break and she went to prom with her ex instead of me. I went to see Infinity War that night with my best friends, and I would say I had the better night. Story 32. Together for 3 years, I came back from a family vacation. He didn't intend to find that he had left and moved back in with his parents, 600 miles away, without a word to me. I was devastated. Story 33. We had been together intensely at first, but then we slowed down after starting a job together in the same building. We agreed to take things slowly until we both completed the probationary 90-day period. She was dismissed rather quickly. I witnessed the entire situation and approached her as she got into her vehicle to say, "I'm here for you." She looked at me, and even though I had nothing to do with her dismissal, she said, "We're done." Story 34. I received an email the day before I returned from a vacation abroad from my then-wife, informing me that she thought she was pregnant, that I was not the father, and that she would be moving in with my upstairs neighbor in the apartment complex where we lived. This was after 13 years together. Story 35. We had an apartment together that we bought. There was an incident where he became physical with me. It wasn't serious, but it shocked me. It didn't seem like he was going to leave me, but shortly afterwards, he was packed and ready to move away from me and our 2 puppies. We had been together for almost 3 years. There was a lot of back and forth for over a year after this happened. I really thought he was different and my true love. Single dog mom. Story 36. I broke up with her, and she threw a plant pot at my face and then punched me several times. I received 7 stitches on my nose. This occurred 4 months ago, and I now have a restraining order. Story 37. Out of the blue on Valentine's Day, 2 separate times. 2 times. I was good to these women. Story 38. After 12 years of dating, I found out 2 months into our marriage that she was cheating. I will never get my 20s back. Story 39. When I was 25, I was in a relationship with my high school sweetheart, which had started in the 10th grade. One night, we were at her best friend's birthday party, a gathering of about 10 people drinking and having a good time. At one point, I noticed my girlfriend was missing, so I went looking for her. I found her in someone's SUV with a guy who was there. She looked at me and said that she didn't love me anymore, trying to make it out as my fault. Story 40. Not me, but this story certainly pertains. A former acquaintance filed for divorce from his wife 2 days after their son's funeral. Karma caught up with him. She devastated him in court, and he is now completely destitute from the child support and alimony he has to pay. Story 41. My boyfriend recently broke up with me. I thought he loved me, but never mind. I saw him laughing with his friends at the university a few hours later. Did I even mean anything to him? Was it all an act? He was my best friend too. I miss him. Story 42. Both cheated on me and started pulling away afterward. One with her ex, the other with a guy she met and cheated on me with during her graduation party. The latter asked for some time off to reflect on herself, using the fact that I wanted to see a good female friend of mine, who had a boyfriend at the time, as an excuse. Then, she avoided me for 2 weeks, giving vague reasons whenever I asked her what was going on. The more I pressured her, the more she distanced herself until she finally told me she wasn't interested in me anymore. I hope she never finds a healthy relationship and continues to be treated poorly by her future partners. Story 43. I called him to talk, and he said, "I'm with my girlfriend. I was pregnant with his child." Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.